Guys, how we doing?
Hello. Good.
Questions?
James, you said you would probably have an update on KJ Winston.
Long term.
Long term. Thank you.
James, we did see Tamir back in practice today. Can you talk about his ability to impact linebacker depth and how ready he's going to be?
Short term. Tay had some bumps and bruises, missed some time. We need him. He was really doing well. So to be able to get him back is helpful at a position where we're trying to develop some more depth right now. So it's great having him back out of practice for sure.
With KJ out, how does that impact your depth? Are there position changes you might have to make and leadership, all those things that he kind of brings to the table?
Yeah, I don't think it impacts leadership a whole lot because he's still going to be heavily involved there. I think we've talked a decent amount about Day Lane. So that'll have a huge impact on him and the reps that he's getting and where he's at. And then we're trying to kind of figure out that next guy right now. So there's a ton of guys that are going to get some opportunities, but we have not figured that out yet.
James, we saw some ramifications.
Belgrave Shorter's a guy that we're going to take a look at safety too.
Some of the ramifications we saw against Bowling Green was Jalen Reed moving back, Cam Miller moving in. Would you prefer to see Jalen Reed in that line position, or are you kind of ready to get him back to the safety spot?
Yeah, I mean, as you guys saw what he did against West Virginia playing that spot, it was a great position for him, but we may not have the flexibility to be able to do it. I think early on you're probably going to see him high, but hopefully as Day and others start to come on, then hopefully as the year goes on we can move him back into that spot, but we'll see.
We've seen some Cam Miller at the line position as well when Jay Reed's been up there. How has he adapted to that role?
He's always been doing that, so that's not new.
James, we talked to a couple of defensive players today. It seems like they're entering this weekend with a chip on their shoulder. How have you kind of seen them handle themselves for the past 2 weeks?
Yeah, the reality is we played a half of football, inconsistent than how we've normally played. You look at how the second half went, but as you can imagine, this early in the season, a half impacts you dramatically. It won't impact you later in the season when we played a bunch of games, but I think we're used to playing dominating football around here. We've been doing it for a long time, so I think they do have a chip on their shoulder, and I'm expecting that to show up on Saturday.
James, Cam is obviously a different type of player than Jalen Reed. Would him being in there impact kind of how you call the defense at all, or what you're asking that line to do in any way?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think his style of play will show up differently than how Jay Reed's does. But no, I wouldn't necessarily describe it that way. It's not like I will call it different.
Coach, how much of a luxury, James?
Where I will say this, though, excuse me.
Yeah.
Where I will say this is with Jay Reed's size, we felt like he could play on third down versus 11 personnel and also play base. So you could almost treat him like base. Where I think, if he's not down there, then we may have to truly be in a, 3 linebacker base set against 12 personnel and other things, and then, be able to go lion, nickel, however you want to describe it, versus 11 personnel and those types of sets.
I was going to ask, how fortunate do you feel to have a guy like Zach Key who has played so much football, and by all accounts, Dex, that you said he's just taken another step in the offseason to where he is now?
Yeah, I think it's really helped. I think we've always had a lot of confidence in him, and he continues to get better. Obviously, his role, just like we're talking about with these other guys, is going to dramatically increase. We feel fortunate that we got 2 guys that have played a ton of football for us and played at a really, really high level. But we're going to have to develop more depth as this thing goes on for sure.
How much is the scheme helping Drew Aller, and how much is Drew Aller that much better than we've seen in the past?
I think a little bit of both. I think we're doing some really nice things scheme-wise, but I also think Drew's gotten better as well. I think it's probably a combination of both. I know you guys, just like my wife, hate when you ask me like 2 questions and I basically say yes to both of them, which I do a lot, but I think it's a little bit of both. I think we're doing some nice things scheme-wise, specifically when it comes to explosive plays, and I think Drew's been a part of that as well.
Hey, Coach, how has Drew Shelton done to this point at left tackle? And we saw a little bit of Nolan Rucci against Bowling Green. Should we expect to see him at left tackle again against Kent State?
Say that again one more time, I apologize.
How has Drew Shelton done at left tackle in your mind? And we saw Nolan Rucci play a little bit at left tackle against Bowling Green. Can we expect the same against Kent State?
Are you asking me about how Drew played, or are you asking me if Rucci's going to play left tackle? Or both?
How has Shelton done at left tackle? And then
Yeah, Shelton's played well at left tackle. You know, for the guys that have covered us for a long time, you guys know 2 years ago when Olu got hurt, he played I think the last 4 or 5 games of the year started. So he's been playing that position for a long time, and we think is playing well. We expect him to play well. And then Rucci's a guy we're trying to continue to, again, develop depth. And that's at right tackle, that's at left tackle, but that's also Javen being able to play some left tackle. That's also JB being able to play some right tackle as well. So just trying to create some more of that depth. But yeah, we want to continue to get Rucci involved as much as we can.
James, you're the left center. Nick Dawkins, he's on a couple of boards watch lists for what he's doing in the classroom and on the field, and him being a team captain. Are there examples you can point to that reaffirm that he has influence and a presence on this team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have examples. You guys have been around him. It doesn't take long to be around Nick. He's very articulate. He's very ambitious. He's also extremely charismatic. He's one of the most charismatic guys I've ever been around. He's graduated from Penn State. He's working on a master's degree. He's got his own foundation. He's a captain. You know, and then also in a day and age of the transfer portal where guys typically don't wait around, you know, he's waited all this time to be a starter, and right now he's playing really well. It's very important to him. And I just think he's one of these guys that really has maximized his Penn State experience. Like, you know, there's a lot of people call him like he's the mayor of State College. I could see him being governor of the state one day. Like, I don't put anything past this guy. Like, he's a special guy. Mom has done a great job raising him. Guy from the Lehigh Valley. He's really maximizing this entire Penn State experience. I'm very, very proud of him.
James, in that vein, how do you look at Penn State football's role as role models in Pennsylvania? You guys have lended your brand to things like National Guard, things of that nature. Do you want your guys to understand their responsibility as role models? Yeah,
and I think our guys, you know, understand that. I think we try to do a ton of stuff in the community, both here locally. You know, the Hershey Hospital trip, that's become a tradition that we do every single year. It's having people out to practice and spending some time with them. It's acts of kindness in the community that don't ever get reported. You know, and that's really kind of everybody in the program. You know, we're not perfect, but we work very hard at it. And for the most part, I think the guys have done a really good job of understanding that this thing is much greater than just what happens on the scoreboard.
James, we've been waiting a while to see Khalil Dinkins. He showed up with some snaps, had a third down catch. Drew Aller told us that he considered him a kind of a Swiss Army knife, potentially, for the offense. Can you bring us up to speed on where he is in his development? Because we haven't personally seen him in quite some time in extended action.
Yeah, just a really talented guy. As you guys saw last year, you know, made some big plays when he had an opportunity. I think he's got a chance to be a real weapon for us. That's why losing him we lost him for a good portion of camp. So to be able to get him back is really important, especially with losing Rapp. I expect him to have, you know, a big time impact on both the pass and run game. He's also like Tyler. First of all, I think Tyler Warren's the most complete tight end in college football. I think a lot of times it's lazy when we give the awards to the guy, especially at the tight end position, that has the most catches and the most yards. There's a lot more to playing tight end than just catches and yards. And he's a complete tight end, which is, to me, what the award should be about. But then, you know, when I look at Khalil, he's another guy that when he's on the field, they can't put him into a box and say, this guy's the receiving tight end and this guy's the blocking tight end. You know, those guys can line up in 10 personnel sets, spread sets. They can motion into the backfield and play fullback.
Neil's not here.
Yeah, sorry. Neil, wherever you're at, that was for you, buddy. You you know, they can play on the line tight end, they can play in the hip position. And, you know, you guys have heard me say this enough, but that's when tight ends are most valuable and when defensive coordinators, you know, get headaches about them. So, you know, I'm very, very proud of our tight end room development. Ty Howell's done a great job. There's a lot of tradition and pride in that room. But I think those two guys, as well as obviously Luke is coming on and doing some good things, you know, we're blessed to be in this position where we do have, you know, pretty good depth there, even though we had a significant loss in Rap.
Last question, guys.
How has Tysier Denmark come along through these first couple weeks of his first season?
Good. Yeah, good. You guys have heard us talk about him before. He is an exciting young player that we think is going to have a role at some point. But there's a lot more that goes into this than just running routes and catching balls. There's a lot more that goes in. You got to be physically ready, you got to be emotionally ready, you got to be mentally ready. And typically for most of these guys, there's one of those areas that they gotta get resolved before they're able to get on the field. But he's trending in the right direction for sure.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Guys, we have the players.